waterfalls in the middle of a moon-like desert, a snow-capped Vista Lake, and the cutest fishing village in Iceland. Join us as we continue our trip around the Ring Road of Iceland. And welcome to Livin' Like Locals. On this episode of Livin' Like Locals, we drive from the northernmost city in Iceland through a national park to see a waterfall. We then make the trek up a mountain pass road to stay at Seydisfjordur. As always on this trip, you can expect a constant butchering of language. We sadly said goodbye to one of our favorite Airbnbs, but not before I had to wipe away the residue of the midges who had met an untimely fate against our windshield. We explored Akureyri, or the A-Town as we like to call it. It's a great stopover right on top of the country, with pretty seaside views, nice shopping, and beautiful locations such as this Lutheran church. I could have stayed a week in this area, but we had miles to travel. The amazing thing about Iceland is that it's the ultimate chameleon. Within the course of a day, you can jump from a host of locations, from glaciers to rolling fields and even to deserts. It's like a video game where each level you find your Mario-like character in a new location. We set our sights to explore a national park in a desert-like setting. The problem with being out in the middle of nowhere is that there were no bathrooms. Nada. And so we settled on this strange-looking building that one of the locals pantomimed was the place to go to. It did the trick. There were many times we almost turned around, but like the best journeys, we were glad when we arrived, as this waterfall was tremendous. We enjoyed a picnic in this area that looked like the moon, or at least a Class M planet in Star Trek. We were on the west side, where there's far less people than on the east. I have to say, given the spray off the falls, it was one of the times I was extra nervous about my drone Frodo, and was like a kid watching a horror movie while I controlled the drone, my heart racing and on the edge of my seat. I so wanted to fly the drone right next to the falls, but common sense got the best of me. And Kathy's advice. Driving out to this waterfall in the desert would be enough adventure for one day on a normal trip for us, but we had miles to go. It's hard to explain the sheer vastness of this area and the sense of being entirely alone here on top of the world. And it's impressive to think of the generations of people who lived here and made a home of this for so many years before central heating and Netflix. We continued on the road and encountered what for us was a first: no gas stations. Normally, if you run out of gas, you dial up AAA. Here we had no options. Our witty banter and music playing was replaced by worried silence as we rode for hours not knowing when and if we'd find a station, nor what to do if we broke down without cell service. Thankfully, we barely found one in time, which was about as close a call as we like to play it. This view of the gas station may not look like much, but for us at the time it was like discovering the Ark of the Covenant. The road magically changed once again as we climbed a mountain pass on our way to our destination. There, we found something completely jaw-dropping, as if we had suddenly been transported to another time, place, and country. We felt like we were on top of the world, and marveled at the snow-capped mountains, the mirror-like lake, and fresh mountain air that makes you feel more alive than any double espresso. We thought that there was no way that the beauty of Iceland could top itself in one day, but then, like the best movie with a twist ending you didn't see coming, it got even better. Despite us being on the road all day, we couldn't resist stopping to take more pictures of waterfalls, which, as addictions go, isn't all that bad. Were we in reality anymore, or was this some kind of fantasy world? We didn't want to leave, and had it been a bit warmer, I would have loved to jump in the water, just to cap the day. The road into town went from what looked like Everest to Switzerland. After the long drive, our jaws dropped at the sheer unique beauty as we winded into this little gem of a town hidden on the far corner of the island. The entire town seemed centered around this one bar, where weary travelers stopped for beers, stories, and marveled at Mother Nature winning best achievement in creativity. Every shot could stand in for a fantasy world. It was like visiting pure imagination. I felt at home. We told stories of our day, of driving in the desert, discovering new worlds and waterfalls, and finding this amazing village of tranquility. But most of all, we sat in silence, just taking in the amazing views, and thinking, this was all in one day. For me personally, when I want to take a moment away from anything that's bothering me, I'm going to think of this spot. This crossroads of the town, where travelers sit on picnic tables and where time stops. I'll think of the beer, well-deserved after the long drive, the way it's as refreshing as the air. And I'll think of that view. And I'll always have this spot deep in my heart. A snapshot of the perfect day, the perfect town, and the perfect moment in time.